This is the Seller Process Podcast, where we talk about the best systems, processes, and SOPs for your Amazon business so that you can regain control of your time, build up your team, and scale your e-com empire.
Hello, entrepreneurs. If you are serious about building a solid business and you are looking to create better systems to manage your numbers and take control of your most important financial metrics, then this episode is for you. Our guest today will share with us how to create a P&L that is optimized for Amazon sellers in order to take control of our financials and make better business decisions. I'm joined today by Matt Remuzzi, the founder of CapForge Bookkeeping and Tax, a firm that specializes in accounting for e-commerce sellers. With over 1,100 e-com clients, predominantly private label FBA sellers, CapForge is uniquely able to help owners understand their true profits, manage cash flow, minimize taxes, and optimize exit value. Hey, Matt, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Okay, awesome. I was about to say maximizing taxes. No, please.
No, don't.
Don't. So just, to make it clear, guys, Matt is great at minimizing taxes,
right?
Not maximizing it. Okay, cool. So Matt, in this podcast, we're all about systems and processes. We talk about a lot about the fundamentals, so this is something it's kind of dear to me because it's part of the fundamentals we often bring about in other episodes. So we're talking about P&L, accounting, bookkeeping, managing our numbers. So this is like super important. Every entrepreneur should have like a very solid system to create a P&L and manage their numbers. Okay, so this is something we should share with Amazon sellers who may not be familiar with this accounting procedures. So, we can share with them how a good P&L looks like. So before we dive right in, let's introduce to people why is important to create a P&L and what can people expect if they do it right.
Right. So, this is a very data-driven type of business, and it's really the margins are not always as good as they could be. So by creating a good system, a good process for keeping track of how much you're buying your products for and what it's costing you to sell them, you can keep a good handle on making sure that you're profitable on each SKU that you sell, each month that you sell it, including your ad spend, including everything else that goes into it. If you've hired VAs or you have to buy insurance or you've, got other costs in the business, you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're making money on those efforts. And it's very easy for things to cost a little more here, a little more there, to have some unexpected expenses. And before you know it, you're making much less than you thought, or even not making money at all. And for the folks that don't take the time to really track and understand this, they could potentially be putting all this hard work and effort into a business that at the end of the day ends up paying them hardly anything. They would have been better off getting a job working at Starbucks or something. So, and it's surprising to me, I frequently talk to people who are 7-figure sellers, even 8-figure sellers who have no accounting process in place. How can you have a business doing $15 or $20 million of annual revenue and have no idea how much money you're making, if any? It's mind-boggling. So whether you're just getting started or you've been doing this for years, if this isn't a process that you've taken the time yet to really make sure is optimized, please do so. It's so much easier to improve the business and make more money when you're tracking it than it is if you're not looking at it at all.
Absolutely, 100%. And guys, first lessons here, if you don't want to work at Starbucks, go get your P&L done well, because Matt is totally right. I've seen lots of people actually, running big businesses and they don't know where their money go in and where they go out. So many times, they're unprofitable. So that's the basics of running a good business. So where do we start to create a well-crafted P&L, and where do we get the information to input in our P&L?
Right. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that the information in your P&L is going to be able to help you make useful decisions. That's the whole reason we do accounting. Sometimes people think the only reason I'm doing accounting and bookkeeping is that so once a year I figure out how much tax I owe. But really, it's a decision-making tool. And so in order to make good decisions, you want it to be able to give you good data. So from the very top, if you're selling on multiple platforms, you want to make sure that your P&L is telling you how much you're doing by platform, whether it's just Amazon or you have Shopify sales or eBay. Your P&L should be telling you the revenue by platform, the fees by platform, the ad spend by platform, et cetera. So that's one way to think about how to set up a good P&L. And then obviously the first thing you want to do, let's say we're talking about Amazon US, right? You want to go to those pay reports, date range summary report, and that's going to tell you by month, here's your total sales, and it's going to show you refunds, discounts, promos, and it's going to show you the fees that you've paid, and it's going to show you how much money has been transferred to your account by Amazon. So let's say you had 500,000 in sales, you may have $200,000, $250,000 in fees, including that ad spend, and only $250,000 coming back to you. That's really important information to know. If you just look at your bank statement, you see how much money they gave you, but you have no idea. Have your fees been going up? Has your ad spend been getting out of control? Have your inventory and shipping credits not been working out? Have you been giving away too much in discounts? So pulling that data from Amazon and then using that as the basis to start your P&L is critical. And then for each platform you sell on, you want to do the same thing: Shopify, eBay, et cetera. Total sales, fees, and then deposits that you're getting, and track those month by month so you can really see what's happening. That's where you start a P&L, is by platform, by month.
Okay, that's great. So guys, remember, don't pull out ad spend, for example, from Campaign Manager. That's not accurate. You know, the one place you want to get all the data from is the one Matt just mentioned, the payment report, the data date range report that you find in Seller Support, in Seller Central. And guys, remember that in every episode we have complementary material. So this time Matt is giving us a the template for the P&L that you guys can use. So let's maybe talk about that, Matt. So what are people getting here, and how can they use it? Do they need to use any tools with that? How can they use the complementary material that they will find in the show notes of this episode?
Sure. So what I included was a template for the profit and loss, so you can see what accounts you should have. That this is the way we set up all of our e-commerce clients. What accounts you should have so that you're tracking enough information to make good decisions, not too much information to overwhelm yourself, and not too little information to kind of cut short some important decision making. So what you can do with that, for the sample P&L I included, if you're already doing bookkeeping, let's say you're using a tool like QuickBooks or Xero, compare the profit and loss list of accounts that I provided with what's in your current books, and see if you've got the same accounts. If you've got more accounts than I have, there may be some that you could combine or merge together. You may be spending more time separating things that you don't really need to separate. More likely, what I typically see is I'll see just one line called sales, and that'll have everything lumped together in there across platforms, and including refunds and promos and discounts all into one general line, where really it would be helpful to see it by platform, and including how much are we doing in refunds? What if our refunds have been going up? Does that mean our product quality has been going down, or we've been over promising in our ad description and people are disappointed with what they're getting? That's important information to know. So compare the profit and loss template that I included with how you're doing your books in QuickBooks or Xero, which are tools that are really meant for tracking accounting properly and see how it compares. See if there's things you could add or things you could take away. If you're not using QuickBooks or Xero, I would definitely recommend considering those. Those are very useful tools to make this process much easier and quicker and more automated than doing it by hand in a spreadsheet or not doing it at all, which we've already talked about is not a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. That was actually, what I was curious to ask you, like what would be the benefits of using QuickBooks and Xero compared to doing it manually? I know, the main problem is that people don't even have a P&L, all right? So if you guys don't have one, I mean, definitely you should start creating your P&L. But once you do it, many of those people, who have a P&L, I would say most of them, they have it on a spreadsheet. They create a spreadsheet maybe out of the date range report. So what would be the advantage?
I'll give you 3 advantages to using actual accounting software versus a spreadsheet. So advantage 1 is that accounting software, whether it's Xero or QuickBooks, you can connect directly to your accounts, whether you're using bank accounts, credit card accounts, etc., and it will pull the data in automatically. So you don't have to go to your bank and figure out your transactions and then put it into a spreadsheet and try to sort it all out. QuickBooks, Xero automatically pulls it in. And if you have regular purchases, you can set up rules so that the next time you pull it in, it even automatically categorizes it. So it's efficient and it's saving time and it's memorizing things and putting it in the right place. Part 2 is with accounting software, you're getting a P&L and a balance sheet. So it's tracking not only your expenses, but also your cash balances and your inventory balance and your equity balance, all important financial information to track. We're mostly talking about P&Ls today, and that's honestly what most sellers look at. But the balance sheet is an important part of your financial package too, and the accounting software will automatically create that. Doing that manually with a spreadsheet, unless you've got an accounting degree, is a real challenge. Double entry accounting is complicated and doing it in a spreadsheet is tricky. And the third reason, I could go on, but I'll stop at 3. If you decide to sell your business, if you present a buyer, hey, here's some spreadsheets I made that say how much money I'm making, they will completely disregard that because a spreadsheet could say anything. It could have errors. The formulas could be wrong. You could have put anything in at any time. In accounting software, you can reconcile the results so that it matches the bank statements, matches the credit card statements. It's been vetted and reconciled, and it's much more likely to be accepted by the buyer. Okay, you've got correct double entry accounting done in accounting software. I'm much more likely to accept these numbers as accurate. I'm still going to review them, but I will give your business much more credence, much higher valuation if you've done your accounting properly than if you're just telling me, here's a bunch of spreadsheets, please believe these numbers. I think they're accurate. So higher valuation, faster, more efficient process, and more accurate bookkeeping, all a result of using a tool like QuickBooks than trying to do it yourself in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, so I want to go deeper a little bit on that direction. Like you're talking about exits, increasing valuation. So definitely, a big factor in increasing your valuation is the profit, right? So like how much profit do we have? And so my question for you would be like, what are some areas of the P&L that we could focus on to optimize our business for better profits?
Right. So there's 2 basic levers that you can control, and then there's some other things you can do to optimize. The 2 levers you can control are your cost of goods sold, right? So if you're looking at your profitability by each SKU, chances are when you only have 1 or 2 SKUs, you're watching it like a hawk, right? You're very careful to make sure you're optimized there. But as you grow over time, you continue to add products. Pretty soon, you're going to have some SKUs that just aren't selling as well. And you may even have some that are unprofitable. So the first thing you can do if you have even 5 or more SKUs, make sure by SKU that each one is profitable and profitable enough to keep reordering and not to try something else. What we see over and over again is people with 50 SKUs, 100 SKUs, they may have 10 or 20 that are breaking even or even losing money. That's dragging down their profits, tying up capital invested in inventory that they're losing money selling, and they're not cleaning their catalog regularly. So that's an important thing that you have complete control over, is to clean your catalog regularly. The second thing you have control over is your ad spend. We very often see people wasting money on ads that aren't performing, or that are performing at a level that is unprofitable, right? So they're just flat out not getting any sales on clicks, or they're getting sales, but at a rate that just doesn't make sense. So by going through that, being very meticulous and carefully analyzing your ad spend, a lot of times you can save 25, 30% of whatever you're spending on ads, just turning those off and not wasting it. That money drops directly to the bottom line, increases your profitability. And the third thing that we can help clients with, or that clients can do on their own, is separating out essential expenses from non-essential expenses. So a lot of people will write off travel, they'll buy courses, continuing education, they'll buy things with the business they don't necessarily need, but they want, and it's a tax write-off, which is great. It helps lower your taxes, minimize taxes, which is what we wanted to do. But at the same time, those things are not essential for the business. So it helps to partition them off on your P&L. Essential business expenses versus non-essential. The non-essential business expenses don't count against your valuation. So by breaking them out ahead of time, you can see, here's what my profit is that I would report from a tax standpoint, but here's the higher number that I would use if I was selling the business. And by tracking that every month, you can decide at any given time, here's the valuation that my business would have if I sold it today. Is that number good? Do I want to sell today? Or if I get an unsolicited offer, how does that compare with what I know my business is worth? You're in a much better position to see how decisions you make increase the value of your business, and know at any given time, if you were to sell your business, what it would be worth. So those are all things you can do with a well-built P&L. You can't do if you're not tracking it at all, or if your P&L isn't really optimized.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to, going on with concluding actually this talk about the exits, like what would be some tips that we can use to leverage, accounting to get better valuations at the exit? Are there any tips or tricks that we can use to make our P&L look better, to get better valuations?
Yeah, there's a few things. So the number one thing you have to do is you have to be on accrual basis. So there's two ways you can do accounting: accrual basis and cash basis. Cash basis is the simpler way that just says, here's the money that came into the bank account and here's the money that went out of the bank account. What happens with cash basis is, if you happen to make a big inventory purchase, that may make your bank account for that month have more go out that came in. It looks like you had a loss, but really you only sold a fraction of the products that you ordered that month. And what you want to show on an accrual basis is, here's the sales that came in minus the cost of the products we shipped, independent of how much we purchased that month, only counting the cost of products we shipped and the money we spent on ads and actual business expenses that month. On an accrual basis, you're matching sales with the cost of product, even though you may have bought those products 4 months ago, and you may not get paid on those sales until next month because of Amazon's pay cycle. But accrual accounting lines up sales with costs and shows you, hopefully, you're profitable each month. So on an accrual basis, your books say, hey, every month our sales have been growing and we're profitable every month. On a cash basis, it may look like, wow, some months we made a ton of money and other months we lost a ton of money. And it doesn't wash out in your favor when you're going to sell the business. So number one tip, if you're selling your business, absolutely make sure your bookkeeping, your accounting is done on the accrual basis. And then the second thing, like we just kind of talked about, make sure you've optimized profitability and that you haven't commingled stuff. If you have two different brands, they should be in two different businesses, two different sets of books. It's really hard to sell one brand when you have two brands lumped together into one set of books, and then you're trying to tell the buyer, well, don't look at this cost, don't look at that ad spend, don't look at that inventory, that was for the other business. And they go, well, how do I, now I have to pick it all apart. So keep each one independent and separate. And same thing, don't commingle personal expenses into the business, don't commingle other businesses. If you have a rental business or you do Airbnb or something on the side, don't commingle that in with your e-commerce business and then try to sell the e-commerce business, but explain again to the buyer, well, don't look at all this other stuff. That wasn't part of it. It's too messy. It lowers the overall valuation because the buyer's never sure, did I take everything out properly? Did I untangle this mess accordingly? They just pay you less as a way to mitigate their risk rather than trying to worry about if they got it all right. So separating it and being on accrual basis and maximizing profitability, those are the key things to get the max value at exit.
Okay, great, makes sense. Yeah. So guys, remember these tips if you are in the phase of selling your business, or if you will sell it, if you plan to sell it within the next several months. Keep in mind these tips. I want to go back with the process of creating the P&L, because I think there is something tricky about that. Especially when we calculate the cost of goods sold, right? Our COGS, right? Because it's something that it changes every time. Every shipment has a different cost. So basically, the final landed cost of the goods, it changes for every shipment. And for example, I have shipments every week. So basically, the cost of goods sold changes on a weekly basis. So that what would be your suggestions on how to calculate COGS accurately?
So, I mean, there's a couple approaches, and it depends a lot on how many SKUs you're managing and how often you're ordering and the kind of product you're selling, right? So we have a client that sells coffee beans, for example. Every single day, the spot market price for coffee beans changes. So you have to be very particular with adding that up and adjusting the price that you're using to calculate your cost of goods sold as often as you make an order. There's just no way around it. For other clients, the unit costs that they have may hardly change by 10 cents over the course of a year. It was $5 in January. When they place an order now, it's $5.10. It hardly changed, but the shipping cost has changed. So with each order, they have to adjust that. They can use an average unit cost because it won't affect things very much, but the shipping cost needs to be adjusted each time. So if you have a lot of SKUs and a lot of things happening, a lot of our clients will use inventory management software. Inventory Labs is a popular one, but there's so many options out there. And that can be good at tracking it from PO all the way through product getting sold and giving you a good cost as you go along to use each month. For other clients, it's simple enough. They can use a spreadsheet and track that pretty effectively as they go along. They have a high MOQ. They're not selling that many units every month. And so they can use an average cost without damaging the accuracy every month as they go along. And then every client, every seller, I should say, at least once a year, if not more, should also do a true up. We usually recommend on 12/31, the last day of the year, go through and count all of how many units you have of each thing in your Amazon warehouse, in a 3PL, on order, etc. Add all that up and then compare it with what's on your books. And a lot of times you'll find, let's say you have $500,000 of inventory on your books, but when you go through, count everything, add it all up, it's only $480,000. And that's because over time, you order 1,000 units, but only 990 make it to the warehouse. And then Amazon loses another 20. And then you have returns that are unsellable. So there's always a little leakage of your inventory over time. And we want to adjust for that and make sure we've got it captured. So we have $500,000 on the books. You go through and count. Your total count says you have $480,000. So we enter that $20,000 adjustment. That kind of catches all the variability over the year of lost inventory and average COGS not being quite 100% accurate. But that's the hardest part of this business: inventory tracking and cost of goods sold. Everything else, right? If you spend $1,000 on ads, we're going to see that. You can record it. It's easy to capture. It's easy to check. But cost of goods sold, that's the crux of the accounting and the tracking for this business and the management of profitability. That's always a moving target. And for some clients, for some sellers, it moves a lot more than for others.
Yeah, makes sense. And do you think buyers would be fine with, just averaging out, the different costs of goods sold, over time? It's a practice that is accepted by buyers?
Yeah, I mean, we've been involved in over 400 transactions, and the buyers, obviously, they'd like it to be as accurate as possible, but they understand just as much as the sellers that you're never going to get it down to the penny or even the dollar. If you're close, within 1 or 2%, that's a level of accuracy that most people are comfortable with and can accept, right? You don't want to be plus or minus 10% on $1 million of sales. That's $100,000 swing. That's too big. But within 1 or 2% of your actual cost of goods sold, if that's the range that you've gotten it down to, that's acceptable. Buyers understand it, and they're going to have the exact same problem when they take over.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Makes sense. And it's good to know. I think we covered most of the parts of the P&L, how to create it, how to, optimize it. What are some of the most common mistakes people make when they create their P&L?
So, I mean, honestly, the number one most common mistake is not having one at all. Right? Even a bad P&L is better than no P&L just for tracking purposes, and you can always improve the accuracy. I'd say the second most common mistake that we see people make is they're too general, right? Like I was mentioning, they'll lump all of their sales into one line, all of their Amazon plus Shopify plus eBay and Amazon UK and EU, all of it lands on one line called sales. Yes, that's good that you have a total, but it doesn't help you understand, should I continue to invest in my Amazon EU business, or is that losing money or not pulling its weight? Would I be better off, going to Walmart or trying Shopify or spending more there? A good P&L helps you make those decisions, not based on your gut, but on the real data. So if you've combined it down to too generic of a number, you no longer can use it to make decisions. So that's one mistake. Another mistake we see, as I mentioned before, a lot of people do P&Ls, but they do it cash basis. And while that's, again, better than nothing, it's really not giving you helpful data. What you want to see is consistent profitability month to month. You want to see apples to apples comparisons of each month as it goes along. If you're doing it cash basis, you can't really compare January to February to March. And so that data, again, is not as helpful in making decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, makes sense. Matt, we're almost done here. We have, our last key question for you. So what is your best advice to achieve more with less when it comes to effective accounting and bookkeeping?
So two pieces of advice there. One is really use a proper accounting tool, either QuickBooks or Xero, right? Use a proper accounting software. It's going to make it easier. It's going to make it more accurate. And two, decide where is the best use of your time, right? You can learn accounting and take the time to do it all yourself and try to be accurate on top of all the other things you have to do. And when you're small, you have the time and it's not that complicated. That might make sense. But when you start to get bigger, it gets more complicated. It takes more time. And that may not be the best use of your time. So that's when you might want to consider outsourcing, getting it done by a professional, a specialist in the space, so you can use your time doing things only you can do, and at the same time getting better, more professional results, trading some dollars for that time. And that's a decision that, I think a lot of people wait too long to make. They're 7-figure, 8-figure sellers and finally realize, wow, I could have made better decisions if I'd had better data. I tried to do it myself, or I didn't do it when I could have. Because I didn't want to spend the time or the money to do it. But I think that's a key decision that you should be thinking about as the business gets bigger, right? You can no longer do it all and do it all well. So which parts can you outsource? Accounting is one thing. It's relatively easy to outsource and get good results. Other things you can outsource well or get good results from, but accounting is one you can. So at a certain time, it probably makes sense as a better use of your time to get help on that than to continue to try to do it yourself or not have it done at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sounds great. So exactly as you said, people could do it also manually, but let people know if they would like to reach out to ask help from your firm, how can you help them, and how can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm happy to look at anybody's accounts, whether you're, again, just started or been doing it a long time and you just want a second opinion. Hey, does this look right? Are we mostly on the right track? Could we use help? Is there ways we could optimize? No cost, no obligation. Just check out the website, capforge.com. It has our contact info. You can send us an email. Hey, Matt, I just had some questions. I'd just like a second opinion, or can I get another copy of that template? By all means, we're happy to help anybody. And if you decide, you want to talk about more, we can do that as well. But if not, no problem. I'm here for help for anybody that wants it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Matt. Yeah. I think it was a very insightful episode. Yeah, thank you again for your tips.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So guys, remember the key to success is to emulate the best. So now it's your turn. Take action on the tips that Matt just shared with us and implement it in your business. Go to thesellerprocess.com and find this episode show notes to download the template of the P&L that Matt is giving us. And also you can find it in the description of the YouTube video. All right. So implement these tips and have a productive week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey entrepreneurs, I hope you enjoyed the episode and learned something from the interview. If you're serious about creating systems for your business, automating processes and building up your team so that you can transfer the tedious daily tasks in order to focus on more high-level strategic tasks and work on your business and not in your business, I've created a guide for Amazon sellers named Capturing Systems and Creating SOPs that you can find at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook, where you will learn how to leverage systems and SOPs in your Amazon business so that you can accomplish more by working less, optimize your time, automate and delegate tasks, and reap the benefits of being a true business owner and not simply an operator in your own business. Go download the ebook at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook and start implementing all the tips and insights that I share with you. And leave us a review or a comment to let us know how the content we are sharing here is making an impact in your business. And have a productive week.